a retail store for years, and then I got into the food business at some restaurants and created a product called Zip Sauce, which is in about 4,500 retail stores now. And our family's done some real estate and stuff like that, but mostly in the food business. About 95% of it was in the food business or food type business, grocery store, retail. I had some background in this space when I was younger, and I got in the food business for about 15 years. I was completely out of the space, and a group of partners ended up raising some money and asked me, would you find the best place to grow cannabis and, work with us on trying to grow a business in cannabis somewhere in the country? And we ended up in Washington and Oregon to start about 5 years ago. We're the largest production company in Oregon for cannabis oil. And in Washington, we're the third largest indoor grower at present time. There's definitely been some regulatory problems along the way. There are some similarities, mostly in the marketing side of it, and the quality side. Like, everybody just wants to put everything in a bag and just go ahead and put the product out there and get it to market as fast as and do it the cheapest possible. I did the opposite, and did the same thing I did with my other product on the regular shelves, and that was put it in a really high-end package and make a real quality product, because I think to sustain in the end, the quality is going to show through. You can try 20 different edibles and then you try ours and you're like, okay, there's a few really good ones and then there's the rest. So we want to be one of those few really good ones that we can continue our business for years to come. We spent a lot of money, and we went through a lot of trials and tribulations before we got there. In Washington, it took us a while to get going because the price of cannabis went down so low. In Oregon, there was just a glut, and we made some mistakes there by we were only a producer, so we didn't have any farms of our own. And so because we were just a producer, eventually the farms started producing their own oil, and we kind of got blocked out of the industry. So we learned a lot there. We ended up closing shop in Oregon last year. But in Michigan and other states now, we're starting with outdoor grows because we learned from previous things that we needed to be vertically integrated all the way to the dispensary. We still don't have too many dispensaries. We're not, we're more of a grower, outdoor, indoor, and a processor. We've kind of adjusted in a few ways, and eventually we'll team up with somebody to become vertical with dispensaries. But right now we're concentrating on what we know, and that's how to grow. In my opinion, being vertically integrated is mainly for the tax purposes. And it really helps on the tax side. So a lot of people are going vertical in order to create that tax shelter. But if you want to be an expert in an industry, you need to pick one thing and do it well and try to be the best at it. We're not the best. We're very good at what we do, but we're learning every day. In my opinion, the vertical companies have more challenges because they're not great at every aspect of what they do. So I was in retail all my life. I would do dispensaries if I needed to, but we're trying to just focus on one thing, and then hopefully we'll find a partner that will do that side of the business better than we will, and figure out a way to merge or have some type of synergy with those type of companies. But I think right now, everybody that's trying to do it all doesn't do them all well. And so it's a disadvantage to them, in my opinion. Well, the biggest challenge in everything is employees. We've had, so because the industry, there's a lot of workers that want to be in the industry, but a lot of them get high, And so you have a big challenge in, hey guys, we can't get high at work. Let's try to figure this out later. So it causes some liability. Although you're able to find employees, when they're high, it's not a great mix in trying to do such an intricate thing like cloning or running a BHO machine, or you have explosives. I mean, so that's I think the biggest challenge is getting people that want to be in this industry that aren't going to get high when they're at work. And I think if they figure out a way to recruit the right people to do the job, then to us, that's our biggest challenge. We don't do drug testing.
Okay.
We're starting to put a policy in place for all the employees so that they're not smoking marijuana while they're at work. And if they do, we don't know about it. So you can't do it on property. You need to be somewhere else if you're going to do it. And we don't encourage it. We encourage them not to smoke until they get off. But the challenge is, you put the policy in. If you were to drug test everybody for marijuana, you're not going to have any employees. Like, everybody that's in this industry has a passion for it, and that's why they're good at it, right? We kind of look the other way, not fully, because we're telling them, hey, you really need to not smoke weed while you're at work, and if we catch somebody, we send them home. So we are putting policies in place. We have a employee handbook that states in there, you can't smoke weed while you're at work. You shouldn't smoke weed while you're on the job. You're working with machinery, you can injure other people, and it's not fair to everybody else. So if we catch somebody that's doing that, just like you would with alcohol, if somebody walked in and they were drunk, you're not going to leave them on the job. So it's the same type of deal. We're establishing some hard line stuff, but it's tough to do. It's really, that's one of the challenges. Employees is a really tough one. Yes, moisture causes the biggest issue, because mold, you can get powdery mildew, you can get all different kinds of mold, and in Michigan it has like the hardest testing in the country as far as I'm concerned. Maybe Oregon does, or possibly Las Vegas, but in Michigan they have we had a problem with aspergillus, and it's a pass-fail. It's not like if you just have a little bit, you're going to pass. You're failing if you have any. So moisture causes a lot of problems in the rooms. If there's not enough air movement, you'll really have like mold problems, powdery mildew problems, and that's what most people fail for. If you're going to fail, it's going to be for mold or powdery mildew or something in that range of items in the testing part of it. So that's the challenge. Moisture, keeping a room with the right amount of moisture, say 60% in veg, and then when you're flowering, anywhere between 40 and 55%, depending on the stage of cycle. So if you're in week 8, you're going to want to bring it down to 40-45%. If you're in week 1, you're going to want to keep it up between 55 and 60. That's the way we do it. But and then temperature, climate is everything. If you can keep the climate and control the climate, you can grow flower, right? If you can't, you're going to have problems with the flower, especially in the last, in the 6th, 7th, and 8th week is the most dangerous part of powdery mildew, bud rot, any type of mold. We use rock wool, which is more like a grow medium that people use for flood and drain or aqua mediums, but we prefer it because we auto feed in it, and it's done really well for us. We've tried cocoa, we tried soil, and it's just much cleaner. It's done a really good job performance-wise. You might get a little better product out of the cocoa and the soil. Tier-wise, instead of an 8, you might be able to get a 10 out of those. We're more of a very high quality 8 style grower, and we do volume. So we'll get anywhere from 3.5 to 5 pounds of light, when the guy that's growing in cocoa, most of the people are getting a little bit less and they're growing a little higher quality. Even though ours is right there with everybody, we're in the top tier of the middle to top range. But we yield a time and a half to 2 times as much using rock wool. And it's been really beneficial to us. But in the different regions, we've definitely had Michigan, come to find out, was one of the most humid regions that we thought the Pacific Northwest was wet. Humidity in Michigan is we used like 50% more dehumidification in Michigan than we do in Washington and Oregon.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. And so luckily we caught it early, and we were able to adjust. The advantages of using rock wool is it has a dry factor that's quicker, so it'll dry faster than soil, and it'll dry more thorough than soil. It's not really for mold, so cannabis plants love to have water, but they don't like to be wet. So they love water. They enjoy the water, and then when the water stops, they want to dry out. So we've had more luck drying out in rock wool than we have in soil or cocoa. So we just continue to use it. We love it. It's been great for us. It's like an artist, right? Some people like oil. Some people like, so everybody likes their own thing, and they get used to something. And when they get in a range to where they get quality and they're happy with what they have, they stick with it. So that's why we haven't changed. Most of all, testing and what happens with testing is for the good, right? You don't want to give. We started this whole thing because of medical reasons to help people, right? And now it's turned into a little bit more than that. It's helping people, and it's adult use, right? So the testing's great. I'm happy for it. It's the inconsistencies that cause us all the troubles, and all the changing in regulations midstream is crazy. I mean, like some of the things that they do. They'll switch on us like in the middle of, okay, everybody, this is what we're going to do. And then a day or 2 or 3 later, some lobbyist will come in, some big group will come in and say, oh, that's not fair. We need to change this, or we're going to sue the state. And all of a sudden they pivot and they switch everything on you, and it costs you tons of money to catch up. Especially like the example I gave you in Oregon, it cost us literally almost $10 million in product that we sat on, and we couldn't do anything with it. A lot of people get to remediate stuff. There are about 4 or 5 items in the pesticides and any other types of sprays that you put on that separate from the molecules at the exact same temperature as cannabis, as THC. And so you can't separate the two. They're stuck with each other, and there's no way to get the balance to be able to flush it out. You're stuck with, like piperonal butoxide is one of them. You cannot get that out of the cannabis plant, out of the THC side of a crude oil. It doesn't, there's no way to separate the two. So that causes a huge problem. But testing has been a mess everywhere. There hasn't been a state it hasn't been a mess in. And I don't know why they can't get that right. It should be pretty simple. Put SOPs in, and this is what you have to do, and it should be pretty simple, but it's been a nightmare. Door to door to door to door to door. You got to go every single store. You have to talk to every buyer. You have to figure out how to win over the bud tenders. You have to do demos in the stores where you're doing vendor days. You have to. I mean, it's a marketing. It's guerrilla marketing at its finest. You really, literally have to go door to door and talk to every single person and put your name out there everywhere and give out, sometimes lower price product until you get people to try the product. One of my favorite things is you have to try it to buy it, right? So we've had a challenge with that, and we've gotten better and better and better at it. In Washington, we're in 250 stores. In Michigan, we're probably in about 150 stores, and we literally just started 6 months ago. Those are basically relationships that I've had for years. and just friends that are opening stores. And, then you get dispensaries, one dispensary, the other gets mad, you sold to this one and in this city. So it's a lot of work, but it's basically guerrilla marketing in its finest. It's expensive for sure. If you're not going to do it yourself as the owner, then you're going to send somebody else out, and it has to be somebody that's really qualified. You're paying $80,000 to $100,000 for a great salesperson, plus commission. So yeah, it's costly. Yeah, it's not a line item, and it needs to be. I mean, if you really want to get your product out there, like we have no flower in Michigan right now. We're completely sold out. Like every facility we have has zero flower right now. We have good flower, and it's at the right price. We have a customer base, and so now our customers are calling and saying, hey, when's your next harvest? Are you guys harvesting next week, or what's coming down next? What are you trimming this week? What can we get? And we have a line of customers, and it's been really, I'm very thankful. I'm a thankful person when it comes to that. I'm grateful. We have a lot more lights coming online. So we have 300 more lights coming online in Marshall. We have 1,000 more lights coming on, 1,100 more lights coming out in Chesaning. So that's 1,400 lights. We've been fortunate enough to do collaborations with bigger companies from out west that want us to grow their flowers. So a lot of our stuff now is contract grow. For instance, in Michigan, we're growing for cookies. In Washington, we grow for cookies. And we're also growing for Seed Junkie. And we have a new one that's coming up this month. I can't disclose yet, but we're getting these contracts from people because we've done our job at growing in other states, and now they're like, okay, well, grow for us. We'll give you this price per pound, and then we grow like 10 of our own strains. But we need more lights. Like my goal is 5,000 lights by the end of the year. I'm at about 2,000 right now. It'll put us at 3,300 over the next 3 months. So I have another 2,700 lights. It's aggressive, but I'm going to try. We are doing double stack grow now. We figured it out in Washington. We spent a lot of money, about 1,000 square foot room. We spent about $800,000 throwing equipment out and redoing it, and all that type of stuff. We have a couple kids that were engineers, and we've been working with them. And my nephew moved out there and is doing really well at it. He's really excelled, Omar. And so it's a work in progress. We're learning and we're getting better, and eventually we'll get to the amount of lights that we want because we have the demand. That worries me. So we've built this whole thing, and we're not a huge company. We got a couple ex-DEA guys, and we have an amazing lawyer. We have one of the best teams you're going to find, but that's the only thing that scares me, is because if they legalize it across the country, right? You have either tobacco or I don't think it'll be Big Pharma. I think Big Pharma is going to go the pharmaceutical side and stay with that, my opinion. But you do have the beverage companies that are going to fight for this space. And if one of those companies, they have unlimited money, comes in and builds a 2 million square foot facility, they'll supply the whole state of Michigan. So it leaves us in a position that's really compromised, unless we have 5,000 lights and they're willing to take us out at that point. But I think for the smaller guy that has 300 lights, it poses a real problem, decriminalizing the whole thing and going federally legal. I think for the small guy that started with $1 million or $2 million and built his grow, it's going to be devastating for those type of people, for how they've set it up. I think it's not set up for that. Taxes is the biggest pain point. So they cause a lot. It causes a lot of problems. If they could come up with a system that could give us a template of this is what it should be. Like, there's so many gray areas on the tax side, and we, having the attorney and having two ex-DA guys, we're so scared. We're like, just pay everything and we'll deal with it later. You know what I mean? And it's so hard because you have all these fees and employees, and you're paying double Social Security, and you're paying as a small business, and you have all these problems with 280E that's kind of why we stayed more away from the dispensary side, because the dispensary side, if you only have a dispensary, that's a huge problem. It's gonna be an eye opener when they come back at you and say, hold on, you deducted this and you deducted this. This is not, you can't do this. And so there's going to be huge problems on that. To me, that's the biggest problem, other than running a real commerce business. Like, people just think, oh, you're just going to open a grow, or you're going to open a thing and you're just going to do well. It's a commerce business that you actually have to have organizational facilities, and you have to have, accountability, and you have to have, it's a regular business. It's not just, it's business like any other. The real good people are going to benefit because they're going to run a really good operation, and they're the ones who will stay on top. If you run a good business, you're going to be fine. If you don't run a good business, you are not going to be fine. That's just the way it is. And a lot of people take it for granted that, hey, it's just growing weed, especially the people that are coming from the black market, and they don't realize like all the taxes and all the regulations. And then they come in and they're like, wow, this is crazy. We're not making money. It's not an easy business. People think it's like simple and you can just go open a place and it's going to be, everything's like peaches and cream. It's not. When you open, your first harvest in the grow side is the toughest part. On the processing side, getting material, if you don't have your own outdoor grow or you don't have your own grows, getting material is a huge challenge, especially as the market matures. Then, the people that are growing their own material can process it, and they're going to have cheaper edibles. They're going to have less expensive cartridges. They're going to have less expensive. That's where it gets really challenging for people that don't have their own grow and they want to process, or they don't have their own outdoor grow and they want to process. It's a huge challenge for them. So a lot of people are just opening processing, and I tell them all, listen, get a grow to go along with it, make some deals with some growers. Don't just open processing. That was my first failure. So they need to, that's where the vertical integration comes in. I think Oregon has done a pretty good job. Washington, it's more laxed, except for, the accounting side. They really come after you at the accounting side. I think Michigan has done a good job of the regulatory side. It's the part that hurts everybody is the black market. So if they don't go after the black market, it hurts everybody. Michigan, they came out with a 72 plant caregiver grow, and they haven't been able to redact that yet, or take it back or rescind it. So what they need to do is rescind it and just give people 12 plants. Here's your 12 plants, or here's your 6 plants. That's all you need at home. If you're growing 6 plants at home, you have enough marijuana for yourself. Why should they have 72 plants and 5 people plus the caregiver? That's a business that they can make hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and they take away from the people that are actually doing it legally and paying taxes and paying $30,000 a year for a 1,500 plant license. I mean, Michigan's become basically your partner. We have 5 licenses in one facility. That's 150 grand a year. That's $13,000 a month just to the state of Michigan, when you have this caregiver grow that is paying nobody any taxes, and they're growing 72 plants, and they're growing in, they're vegging for 3 or 4 months, and they're getting 5 pounds a plant, and it's just causing havoc on the black market. And that's all customers that we should have in our stores, in people's stores, to buy a product that's legal, so that's a huge problem. Correct. I think California took it to 12 plants. I think that was really smart of them. Michigan's still at 72. Oregon, they've blocked out a lot of caregiver stuff there. In Washington, they don't tolerate it at all. They don't tolerate anything. They've done a great job there.
Arizona, no either.
Arizona, no. So they need to get rid of that. If they're going to regulate it and give us the opportunity to do it legally, they need to get rid of the illegal part of it. I think if you have 6 plants at home, that's a person that's growing for themselves, and I don't have a problem. It's like, making your own liquor at home or wine at home if you want. It's not going to affect the industry. The person that's coming out there right now in a retail store is somebody that wants to go out partying on the weekend and when they're off, and they're coming in and they're buying flour, they're buying edibles, they're buying all that type of stuff and concentrates. And so, I don't think 6 plants or 12 plants a person really affects anybody. It doesn't affect our industry. But 72 is a problem. As far as Delta 8 is concerned, it's a chemical reaction that creates the product. So it's a synthetic product. So I don't believe in it. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think people should be indulging in it. I don't think the regulators should allow it. So making an extract, you can make extracts tons of ways, right? So CO2 is probably the safest because there's no residual solvents in it. But BHO has become real quality also, and so has ethanol. Like, you can get all the solvents out if you have the right practices, right? When it comes to a chemical change and you're taking chemicals to switch something into a different product than what it was meant to be, it then becomes synthetic, right? So there's no way it could be healthy for you. A concentrate is something that you took the product, a cannabis product, and you extracted that natural oils out of it, and now you put it in a container and it's natural. It's not, there's no, you didn't change the product from its state. Did you take out some fats and lipids? Yes. Do you take a few things out for flavor? Yes. But you're not completely taking a isolate and a chemical reaction and creating synthetic, right? So that's a huge difference than putting it in a machine. Natural product comes out of that machine, and then you post-process it by, say, adding alcohol to get rid of the fats and lipids or whatever you're going to do that. Then you still end up with a natural product. It's not a synthetic product. D8 is a synthetic product, completely synthetic. There's no, and it's going to disrupt the industry. It's going to cause a lot of problems. I would vote to make it illegal all across every state, even though 12 states have banned it and 5 or 6 more are on the horizon of banning it. I think it should be banned altogether and it should be enforced. I don't think there's any room for it at all. I think it's disruptive and it's synthetic, and if they're going to do that, then we should be able to use synthetic things all across the board, and it takes away all the hard work that we've put into doing a real cannabis, being in the cannabis space, and then now people that are in the hemp space are selling stuff to cannabis companies to produce whatever they're going to produce with it. I don't think it's fair. I think it should be a completely separate industry. The hemp space should be a different industry, and the cannabis space should be a different industry. There's different licensing. You can get into hemp for $200 when, the cannabis side in Michigan costs you hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions and millions of dollars. So I just don't think there's a place for it at all.